This here is Clover, and Comet, the other dog we worked with, who we met in the other video, is right over by his guardian. He is an older dog and he thinks that he runs the show. This is the roadmap to success. Now, Clover here has gone to our puppy socialization class and she's done very good. She's not afraid of the vacuum cleaner. She has good socialization skills. She likes to play. She listens to her guardians well. It's just another good example of why you should take your puppy to puppy socialization classes. Basically, the main problems we went over were Comets, and a lot of them I think are related to him thinking that he is in charge of security. He doesn't think he's equal with the humans. He thinks he is superior to the humans. Part of that tells me from where part of his behavior tells me that by sitting higher than the humans. He nips people who get up and move around if they're not part of the family, and even if he is part of the family, they are part of the family. So he nips to correct and disagree. And so what we need to do is essentially demote him. We're going to do that by incorporating rules, boundaries, and providing him structure. So one of the rules I suggested was no furniture for 30 days, minimum, and then probably longer than 30 days, as long as he's still behaving this way. Another rule would be the dogs have to sit before I let them in or out of a door. The dog should not be within 7 feet of any humans that are eating. Basically incorporating rules like that help the dog help the humans start correcting the dog on a consistent basis and help the dog see us correcting them. Remember, when we're petting or correcting the dog, we need to do that within 3 seconds of them doing the activity. Otherwise, it's hard for them to make the connections. I'd like the guardians to start petting the dogs with a purpose, especially Comet. So instead of petting him when he nudges or jumps up or puts his paw on us, as soon as he does any of those things, we're going to give him a counter order, tell him to sit. As soon as he sits, then we're going to pet him under his chin and say sit. When a dog feels good about itself, his nose is tilted upward. And so petting them under the chin facilitates that nose up orientation. We're also going to use passive training and start petting him when he does things that we want him to do. Every time he comes to us, we're going to pet him and say come. Every time he sits on his own, we pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, we pet him and say down. If he goes in the kennel, we're going to say whatever the word for the kennel is. Because he was so barking and he was nipping at me, I put him on a leash timeout shortly after arriving. As soon as the leash went on him, he stopped barking. So if you have a dog that's barking, a lot of times they get very aroused, is what we call it. The more worked up they get by moving around. So by putting him on a leash and stepping on the leash about a foot away from the person that he's reacting to, that prevents and blocks him from barking at them and running away, nipping at them and running away. As soon as we did this, he stopped trying to nip me, he stopped trying to bark me, and just kind of chilled out. So let me see, we'd like to use the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. First thing we do is hiss. Second thing we do is stand up abruptly, turn to face them so your belly button is pointing at them, that's where your authority is going. And we're going to keep pivoting until the dog is stationary. As soon as it's stationary, we take a step back, left, right, and then stop. And then we can go back to what we're doing. The third consequence is to march directly at the dog until the dog turns sideways or greater to us. As soon as the dog turns sideways, we stop, and then we pivot. We go down to the second consequence, we pivot until that dog is stationary, and we take a step back or sit down. Let me see, the fourth consequence, then we would not do that. We would not stop marching at the dog if it laid down or sat down or turned sideways in a designated no dog zone. Like we're in the entryway. When the guests arrive, the dogs are not allowed here, but the rest of the time they are. The last consequence is to put the dog on a leash timeout. We step on the leash. Snapping can work for a while, but the hissing will work much better. We step on the leash and we wait for the dog to sit on his own. When he sits, we take the foot that's on the leash, slide it towards the dog. As soon as the dog sits down, we do that. And then as soon as the dog lays down and is quiet and calm, we take our foot very subtly off the leash. And we leave the leash attached for a couple minutes, wait for the dog to walk away. Now, it's dangerous for a dog to walk away on a leash, so he should only be supervised when he's doing that. But if a minute or two later he runs by and he starts to nip at somebody or growl at somebody, we step on the leash, reapply the consequence. If a couple minutes later go by and he's fine, then we take the leash off. It's not quid pro quo. Now, when guests are over, I probably would try to keep him on a leash, for at least initially, because it just gives you so much more control. One of the things I'd like the guardians to do is try to arrange to have a guest come over and make sure the guest is wearing long pants, preferably denim or canvas, and some heavy-duty shoes. And then basically just have the person lift up their foot, put the leash underneath about a foot away from where it's attached to Comet's collar. And the person should not try to pet them or interact with them. All we want Comet to do is realize that you can be next to a human, the human's not going to try to grab you or do anything inappropriately. If the human is right next to him and then the human wants to get up to use the bathroom, right now he barks and lunges and snaps. Well, the person could actually just reach over, pick up the leash, and then stand up and then walk to the bathroom. And I would actually take Comet, have him follow the guest. Now, the other thing you can do is this is going to take a couple of days before he gets relaxed with that technique, but then what you can do is when he sits down, hand the guest like about 4 or 5 treats. If they're hard, open the treats up if you're using the tricky trainers that I left here. And so they have a really strong aroma. It should be a meat treat. And we should not feed it by hand, just drop it next to him. If he doesn't want to take it, he looks away from it, that's fine. Somebody will take it later on. But eventually he should start getting comfortable with that scenario and then start taking the treats. Once he does that, then the person could actually give him the treat by hand. I would have them hold their hand out flat rather than this. More surface area makes it harder for the dog to nip. The other thing is we want to hold it off to the side. Yes, I know, you got places to go and things to bark at. This is more approachable, this is more confrontational. Leaning over a dog can also be intimidating for them. Almost forgot. I want to go over the signs that we're going to watch for Comet, the things that are going to indicate that he is uncomfortable. One of the first things that he does is he kind of freezes. He's just kind of like hanging out, and then I reach for him, he went. He didn't look at me, he looked off to the side and he froze. That was a warning. I don't feel comfortable with you getting that close. If you get more close, I'm going to try to nip you, which he did a couple times. So we want to be able to recognize his signs. I know, hold on, we're almost done, I swear, I promise. How about if I give you one of these? Will that help? I thought that might. Okay, so if he freezes, that's a good indicator for you guys to either pick up the leash or to hiss at him or stand up. Let him, do something to break the mood. If we yell when a dog's about to do something, sometimes that can be the trigger. You could clap or make a loud noise. A good thing to do is teach him to come to you on command and give him a high-value treat. Do this when there's no guest here. So he freezes, and then you say, Rocket, come, and he knows he's getting a treat. That's a great way to redirect him out of that energy, and then he moves away from the guest rather than snipping at the guest. Other things to look for are sometimes a dog will give what we call whale eye, which is like this, and then they look at you and you see a lot of white in their eye. Eyes are really big like saucers. Sometimes licking the lips can mean a sign of stress. You see a lot of licking the lips, he's stressed out. Heavy breathing or holding their breath, also other signs. The hackles going up right between the shoulder blades or on the butt. That's an involuntary. It doesn't always mean aggressive, but if a dog does that, I'm watching them a little bit closer. The tail's wagging and wagging high. Ears are forward. Those are also not by themselves or don't mean aggression, but those are in the family of more assertiveness. And so I would pay a little bit closer attention to the dog. So if you see the dog doing these sort of things, then we want to maybe take stock of what's going on. If the guest is kind of fidgeting, hey, can you hang on a sec? Wait for the dog to relax. Now, eventually we want the dog to practice with these things. At first we want the dog to practice being near that guest. But then if you notice, every time the guest coughs, he reacts. Well, then what we might do is do some counter conditioning. Now, to do counter conditioning, I try to show a little bit of this. It's hard for him because he has very few teeth. But I take a treat and I squish it like a marshmallow. And then what I do is I put it in front of the dog's nose. As you notice, I can change the orientation wherever the dog's looking by moving the treat up or down or to the side. So what I would do for counter conditioning is put him on a leash so he can't run around, and then basically put him into a sit. And then I give him the treat. Now, if I put the treat in front of his nose and he looks around it, he's too close to the person. So we keep on increasing the distance until I put the treat there, he takes it, and he's able to stay seated. Then the next step is to squish that treat, let him nibble on it while he's looking at the person, and maybe the person coughing is what sets him off. We find the distance where he'll sit while the person coughs. Then what we do is have the person, wait for me to do it. As soon as I start delivering the treat, then we let the person cough. At first it should be a soft cough. And then the coughing only happens while the treat is being delivered. If you go to doggoneproblems.com and type in counter conditioning, all one word, click on the dog training tips page. There's a search box on the left, on the right side actually when you're looking at the page. And you type in counter conditioning. I have a bunch of videos that go over this. This basically we can counter condition him. So he starts to think, when I hear the guy barking or coughing, I'm going to get the highest value treat I've ever had. After a while, he looks forward to hearing the coughing. Now, once we can do this at maybe 25 feet, then the next step is have the person take one step closer to us, or we take one step closer to the person, and then repeat the whole deal while the dog's eating the treats. When we get to the point where the dog won't sit or is looking around the treat, we're getting close to the breaking point, that's where we stop. Let's say we stopped at 20 feet away. Well, the next time we do it, we practice at 20 feet and go to 19, 18, and we keep on going, but we go at the dog's pace. When the dog won't sit or wants to take the treat, that's when I stop. Now for counter conditioning, I have had people tell me this, but I understand it's not, you don't have to make the dog sit or lie down, or sit or take the treat. For me, those are, or use a leash. Those are just my tools to make it a little bit easier. Let me see, we're gonna start feeding the dog in a structured fashion. So one dog at a time, and the humans are gonna eat first. We're also gonna have this little one practice not being able to rush out of the kennel. She was, the guardian was doing a good job for this, but we wanna make sure we wait for her to lay down and be completely relaxed. We're gonna open the door, we're gonna walk and block it with our knee, or with our shins, then we're gonna walk away in a very measured way. If the dog starts to come out, we rush forward. As soon as the dog stops, we stop, then we're gonna move back a couple steps. And eventually the dog, as soon as the dog lays down, we pop down, hold our hand out, say come, and then when the dog comes, we would let it take the treat off our hand, but I would have a unique release word for both dogs. Because Comet is going to start being kenneled, so he can't sleep with his guardians. And he's probably going to protest about that. But it's nice if you have two dogs you're doing this with, you can say release for one and break for the other one. That way we can have the doors open and communicate what we want. Let's see, we want to take the dog toys out of the dog bed because we're going to take away the furniture. Well, we want to condition the dogs to go into the dog bed. We're going to do the same thing that we went over for the technique for Comet in the kennel. What I'm going to do is just have a treat, let her see that I have a treat, toss it into the dog bed. As soon as she goes over, the second she touches it with her mouth, we're going to say palace or castle or whatever the word is for the dog bed. And do that and wait for her to walk away, then toss another one. Do that for about 10 or 15 treats the first time, and then after that, just do it every once in a while. Now, if she ever goes there on her own and we have a treat, we go over there and pop the treat in her mouth and say the word beach or whatever it is. At first, it's to entice her to go there, then it's to reward her or him for going there. And the more we do this, then they're going to start hanging out there because they can't get on the couch anymore, and that gives them a little bit of status. I also sometimes will leave a treat there when the dogs are outside or in the other room. So they come in there and don't point it out. Let them find it on their own. Oh, I discovered a treat! Look, I'm the greatest, smartest dog of all times. Then they start coming back more and more, and it makes that more a place that they want to hang out. And that, like I said, it's a nice vocabulary. You can actually direct the dog to go there. I'd like the guardians to also practice claiming the door the way that we did. This is going to be easiest if they help each other by calling or texting when they're on their way home. But if we have a neighbor that we're friends with or a friend that can come by and visit, that gives us a great opportunity to practice it. I would just have her in her kennel to begin with, or have one of us on the walk. And then Comet's got to be up on the top step here. He's not allowed to come down. Make sure when we're doing this, one of the guardians turned her hips away from pointing at him and that he rushed down. We're going to use a tennis racket or get a tennis racket and use that for the door exercise as well as the kennel. Just extends the reach of your arm. You're not bonking the dog with it. We're just using it to move him away. And then I'd like to see the guardians walking Comet on a daily basis. It does not have to be a long walk. He's an old dog. But by doing a structured walk, remember, he's got to be in position, so always on the right side. His front shoulder should be aligned with the walker's hip. The handler should keep their arm loose and hanging straight down, and we're not pulling him from behind. If he starts to move too far in front, we bend at the elbow, a quick tug up, and then immediately relax the leash. There should never be tension on the leash except for that fraction of a second we're correcting. Rule number 3 is no stopping and sniffing. He'd sniff as long as he's going, but if he stops to sniff and you stop, he's driving. And rule number 4, no marking. We're going to walk next to stuff that he likes to mark. We're just not going to stop, and we're going to keep going. Now, if he stops and he says, I'm not going for it, we just let our arm go dead and keep walking forward. Let our arm be a noodle. The rig will keep him coming with us. All right, I'm sure that I'm probably forgetting some other things, but the guardians know that they can always call me like all my clients can. I'm always available to them. Remember, you have a good time? Just give me more treats. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. We'll see you out there.